Hi, and welcome to today's SME Business Podcast. Your host, Mark, will be joining you to interview a founder of an SME business each week, highlighting lessons learned and revealing insights. Listen and learn each week on how to get and stay ahead.
Hi, dear listeners. Thank you for tuning in for the next episode of the SME Business Podcast. Today, we're joined by Joe Graham. Joe Graham is a sales coach that helps sales professionals get more sales. He has been in sales for 15 years and has been a President's Club winner as well. Joe is also a podcast host for the 150K podcast. Currently, his podcast is already at 20 episodes. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, it's nice, I was like, looking at you as like, oh, sales is like, let's be honest, it is a small and medium enterprise, business podcast, so it's like, everybody can use some sales advice, um, especially, coming out of the current situation we're in, probably near, let's say in 10 years time, people will be like, why are all these podcasts talking about, this coronavirus, like they just keep going on and on about it.
And hopefully we won't be talking about it at
No,
that
no, no,
point.
but you get my point, whereas,
Yep.
10 years time, maybe people will be like, like, what's this? But I think in a way, like, sales advice is timeless. Um, um, and like, there's so much to learn, and I'm still learning every day. So yeah, I thought, that's a great shout. So, um, first of all, can you tell me a bit more about yourself and how you got into entrepreneurship?
Sure. So, and here's the funny thing. I actually fell into sales to start with. I was working for a company that a lot of you have heard of in the media recently, Pfizer. Working for them while I was in college, and they shrunk. Pretty much did a downsizing, and I was without a job. So I took a sales job, and I think a lot of people have never. Everyone has a bad idea what sales is and what it can be, but for me, it's turned into being one of the best decisions I've ever done. So, like you were saying, Mark, I've been doing sales for about 15 years. I've done heavy equipment sales over the phone, oil and gas sales. Currently, I work for a multi-billion-dollar company selling contract for dedicated fiber services. And I've had a bunch of people keep coming and saying, hey, how do you do sales? Or how can you help me with my business? I'm going to start a business out, but I don't know how to do the sales process. And so I started getting on podcasts like yours here and just kind of, sharing my knowledge and wisdom from the past 15 years. And I finally just sat down and said, you know what? I have a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge that I could just help other people, get better at sales or presenting, their offers or stuff like that, which birthed my whole 150K podcast, where that whole concept behind that is really simple. I'm going to help you take your dreams to six figures and beyond. And then just doing the sales coaching is the same thing. And a lot of it, I think, comes down to reframing what sales is. Because like Mark, a lot of people say, hey, I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to sound sleazy or whatever. And that's because they've probably been burned in sales or they don't understand the concept of what sales is. But if you can
Yes,
reframe it, to the point
yes,
of sales is just helping people solve a problem. And if you look at it from that point of view, then it's a good thing. I mean, if I help you take your business from, and I'm just using random numbers, 100,000 to 200,000, you're going to be happy
yeah,
with me and you're cool paying me for it. It's just,
yes,
is the person delivering the value for you? Are they doing what they say? Or do they have your interest in heart, not just, like you see the movies trying to get a fast one on you?
yes. Yeah, and it's like, like it's not just like, offering, trying to sell your product, but like actually trying to solve a problem for a client. Yeah, and to be honest, we can all get better. Sometimes, you've been in a situation and you go like, well, somebody goes like, if you only said it like this, then we could have avoided all these 5 meetings.
Yep.
And you go like, well, I never thought about it that way. Yeah, so sometimes, it's good to reflect yourself, and do metrics and be like an A/B testing or whatever you want to call it, and be like, okay, how do you do your messaging, and then and build from there and be like, hey, if I'm telling this story, or I'm using this format, this works. Or for instance, if you're talking about, for instance, using video messages, um, measuring things like, if I send a video message, for instance, at the beginning of the sequence, it's actually um, counterproductive compared to further in the sequence where it actually, um, you know, um, yeah, increases reply rate, if you will. So yeah,
Hmm.
those are all like interesting things, and um, I think like that there tends to be tendency like you're collecting tools,
Hmm.
and then you could just go like in the end, like it's all about human relationships, and I think we can all still get better, and yeah, and then what results from there is that you help clients solve problems, and you help yourself and your family because you maybe historically go from let's say looking at other people around you, if you go like, hey, making 50K a year, and then if you plan it right, and you go into six figures, then yeah, you can improve your family lifestyle and help not just
Hmm.
your family, but other people around you as well, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's that heart-centered action there where you're able to help someone grow their business, help someone grow their coaching thing, or maybe they're just a salesperson starting out. Maybe they're not even in the entrepreneur stage yet. Maybe they're just in sales. And if I can help them, supply for their family and be able to take their kids on the trips they want to do, or just have peace of mind that that money's coming in, I feel like I've done a great thing because
Yes, exactly.
that's the whole goal for me with this. It wasn't that because I've already, in a lot of ways, with my sales jobs and what I'm doing, I've gotten to go on the trips. I've gotten to do the fun stuff. Like I said, I've won presidents clubs. I've been to Hawaii. I've done all the fun things. But at
Yes,
the end of the day, the impact that you have on people's lives matter most.
yes,
So, like, if I can help a customer of mine or a client of mine close a deal, which means that that customer is taken care of and then my client's taken care of, it's great. I love it.
yes,
I think I get more joy out of that than I do out of the big sale now. I've been there, I've done that.
yes. Yeah, I think it's like it's one of those things, having worked in large enterprise. To be fair, I haven't really worked on, the sales side of things. The closest I was like on sales engineering side. Um, but yeah, it's the large enterprise deals where sometimes you could be like, hey, a lot of money was made, or if you will, and a lot of money was paid, but it might not seem that um, game changing. Um, the only the exception there is like stuff that I used to do for like a government sector,
Hmm.
um, where the numbers were big, but then the impact was also big, so that was cool. But yeah, it's like a smaller size where, let's say if you have an organization where, I don't know, they currently, let's say, 20 employees, and they can land a client that's from a different size, if you will,
Hmm.
compared to the existing clients, that can be a game changer because that can get them to be like, hey, this client means that now we have enough money coming in to basically finally hire the people to add those features that we wanted to add.
Hmm.
And then by adding those features or whatever, um, we can bring in new customers because then we can finally compete against, the big boys, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. And it can be as simple as well, where, for instance, if a small company based in a small town, if the number of employers in that small town, of course, is relatively low. So if those employers can then go from let's say from 20 to go to 30 employees in a small town, 10 extra full-time equivalent positions can go a long way.
Hmm.
Because there can be 10 people that then can take care of their family as well. Um, so yeah, that's how I'd like to operate as well. But yeah, um,
Yeah.
it kind of like answered my question, like why do you care if people succeed?
Yep. Yep.
But you kind of like answered a slightly different subject. But yeah, reading, reading is something that we all should do and spend less time on my mobile phone.
Hmm.
Reminder for myself and then some of our listeners probably as well. I don't want to be called a therapist, but yeah, please get off our phone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's like, what's your favorite book?
Right now, I'm reading a bunch of different books, but favorite, there's a couple. So I really like a book by Matt Mateo called You Need More Money. And it just breaks down like mindset shifts, and then it has some tactical and practical stuff you can do. You don't have to be in sales to apply them. It's just a really good book there. And then I'm reading another book right now called Extreme Ownership by Jocko, which is a former Navy SEAL that was in Iraq. And it's just some of the leadership principles that they got from there. Those are my two favorite books currently.
Yes, yes. I was gonna say I haven't read Jocko's book, but I'm a David Goggins fan.
I like Goggins. Goggins is great.
Yes, yes. To be fair, I'm not that hardcore. So listeners, if you're thinking that I'm doing press ups in the middle of a random supermarket, no, I'm not that, but I'm still trying to get on.
Well, we're
Um,
we're all doing what we can do. We're all
exactly.
doing what we can do. I'm not a Goggins either by any
Yeah,
means.
yeah.
I am. I work out. I do stuff like that. But yeah, his stuff and his principles are great. But yeah, I'm with you, my
Yeah, and
friend.
that's my point. Is like it's like how should I say it? If you apply 5%, then you already massively improve yourself. And I think it's almost like what's the habits book? Um, I forgot the guy's name.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People
No, no,
or
that's not the one. That
Atomic Habits.
yes, Atomic Habits. That's the one. Like where you, for instance, like take some principles, if you will, from David Goggins or whoever, and then apply that to your life. And like, for instance, you go like, I don't know, um, instead of like, taking the car and going to your local supermarket, depending on, of course, how far it is, you'll be like, hey, instead of the car, you know what, I'm gonna take a walk and then,
Hmm.
take the groceries. And you go like, hey, instead of like doing, I don't know, 4,000 steps a day, um, doing so, I'm doing now 8,000 steps a day. And you
Yeah.
can be like, like it's not gonna get me, a six pack or whatever you want to call it, what your focus is. But it's about like the small steps that then yeah, establish better habits. And then
Hmm.
the good part is then, it's easy for you to establish more other habits that you may be thinking about. Um, which is like, my main tip for listeners is, like try to focus on one or two habits first before you start thinking about other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
and
I
you
have to
want.
remind myself, don't get me wrong, like I go like I have this whole list like things I want to work on and I have I use stuff on like Best Self, which is like they do journals and whatever,
Hmm.
and they also do like project pads. So that every time something comes up and it'll be like, hey, this is a project I potentially want to do, I write it up and then I with a magnet I whack it on my whiteboard. But then I have to remind myself, like I know I can't work on every project at the same time, but that's where I'm going with the habits. You can be like, hey, I pick up one small project and then like I work on it daily, even if it's like 15 20 minutes. And then guess what, at the end of the year you've made so much progress that you'll be shocked.
Hmm. Yeah, it's time over tension. It's
Yes,
doing the work that you need to do. It's
yes,
being focused on your process to the point where you have it down, where you're not. And I liked what you said that you don't have to be so set on becoming David Goggins or having the six pack. But what if you
yes,
went from like 190, say you're 6 foot, you went from 190 to
yeah,
185, and
yeah,
you're in better shape. It's just
yes,
getting better each and every day. Totally, man.
yes, 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 exactly. And that's what I'm doing now. For instance, like I'm doing running and like a 0 to 5K. I don't know strictly in miles. I think that's 3.6 or something.
Yep.
Top of my head. Um, so yeah, like you just go in the beginning, you just go like, oh, I'm not doing anything. As in, it doesn't feel effective. But then you go like, hey, you know what? If I do this, that adds up over time. So it's not just a question that you'll be able to finish a 5K, but you basically gave yourself, let's say, launch pad to then take the next step. And so that's all what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, like bridging to sales, that kind of thing.
Oh, it
Um,
totally does.
like it's like, repetition makes you better. So, if you start with sales, in the beginning, you might bomb it and you be like, hey, what's this? And, you might so get some people reach out and say like, what's this? What you're trying to do? Um, but you just have to stick with it. This is the funny part, like I know what, biggest mistake people make with sales. I'm gonna, confess there already. Like I've been in the beginning, and you just go like, hey, you know what? You start pitching,
Mm-hmm.
and then before like that's one of the mistakes I've.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
go like, well, you actually not, you don't find out where that organization is and what problems they have, because what you're selling, they might not consider that a problem to them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You have
but
to
yeah,
find their
what
product.
yes, so bridging there is like, oh, what is the biggest mistake people make with sales from your experience?
Um, Kind of what you said. They either go in with just their product and they try to pitch, pitch, pitch and talk about them, or they think with their own pocketbook. So let me give you two examples. I actually just did a training on this on Saturday. So, and I'm in the same world as you are in some regards. So I sell dedicated fiber networks, right? So I talk with chief technology officers. So if I
Yes,
went into one of them and said, hey, Mark, Joe Graham, real quick. Hey, I got some good news for you. We have our dedicated fiber network in your area. We offer voice over IP, Cisco Meraki firewalls, yada, yada, yada. I'm
yes,
just pitching products. They're not going to be happy about that. They're going to be like,
no,
I don't care, right? But if
yes,
I went in and said, hey, Mark, real quick, Joe Graham's got some good news for you. I know a lot of chief technology officers are dealing with people coming back into work and cybersecurity threats and just different things with, people now, getting back in the network. Because here in the States, people are starting to come back to work more.
yes, yes,
I shifted it from my product
yeah,
to the problem the person I'm talking to may be having. Or if I was
yes,
talking to, like, say, a chief financial officer, say, hey, you know what? I know that people are coming back into work. Bandwidth resources are being, pulled on. More costs for them being in there are going to be there. And I might just reshift it a little bit. But if you make that focus on them, they'll tell you their problems. And then you just have to ask questions. And then once they give you
yes,
the answers, then all you have to do is take them down your little line and say, cool, well, hey, I can give you XYZ solution. But it's all about listening to them. Like I've said this on my podcast and actually when I've been training people, if your customer is not talking more than you, you're doing it wrong.
yes,
And then the other part I was going to mention was thinking with your own pocketbook. So say you did it right. You get them to the end and you have a product or service that's like, you know, $9.99 for lack of a better term. But you're
yes,
thinking that's a lot of money to you. It's going to come across in your voice. Whereas if maybe it's going to make them 200,000-300,000 for their business, they're not going to care if they pay you 1,000 for it. That's a
no,
good
exactly,
investment, you know.
exactly,
But I've seen so many salespeople do one of two things. They'll either have motor mouth and just pitch, 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 or they'll have fear of asking for the sale. And both
yeah,
of those, you just have to get, if you're doing it right, if you're being ethical, if you're being moral, if you have the customer's best interest in heart, you're going to come across that way and you're good. And if you can't give the customer the solution you need, here's another little tip. Refer them to someone that can, because even if you didn't get that sale, the crazy thing is they'll remember it. And so when they run into someone that they know that needs your stuff, they'll
exactly,
recommend you because
yes,
you took care of them.
yes, and that's that's the networking part as well, um, where you refer to others, and they not only remember you, but the people that you're referring to also remember you. So when they talk to their prospective customers,
Mm-hmm.
they will go like, "Hey, we can't help you, but we have some other company um, that can potentially help you." Um, so yeah, yeah. I always like to say like it's all about relationships. Um, but yeah, it's a continuous learning process. Things
Mm-hmm.
change. And we all know, like back in the day, like initially it was like, oh, you use like cold calls because nobody called,
Mm-hmm.
because your mother called or whatever, and that's about it. So nobody called. So then basically you picked up the phone because you were happy to get a call, and now nobody wants to do that anymore because people go like, well, like I'm just getting spam calls and people are trying to sell me extended car warranty, which is like the running joke, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
And then
you know what's funny with that? I
yes, yes,
actually make hundreds of thousands of dollars still doing cold calls. Now I
okay,
call the business, not individuals, but I call them the
yes,
businesses. And I
yes,
think because of that, and there's a distinction is that because everything's going online, businesses
yes.
aren't getting as many calls. So if you have a business and you reach out, and make a phone call, you may actually get through to the person
Oh
because they're
yeah, yeah,
not getting
yeah.
as many calls now.
Yes, yes, yes. To be fair, I've seen this statistic as well where they said, well, when we do the cold calling, we do get more pickups. Um, what people did mention was that over COVID, that they were getting more voicemails because, uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the receptionist was not in the office anymore for obvious reasons.
Yep.
Um, so it would end up going to voicemail by default. Um, because of course the receptionist even at home doesn't have a switchboard, because yeah they're not gonna yeah
Yeah, and that's
put a
just where
massive
you
spam.
have to. Yeah, that's just where you
Yeah.
have to be creative with it. So
Yes, yes,
like,
yes, of course.
what I've ended up doing with that when I'm making calls in and I get the reception, she goes, "Hey, I don't have it." I say, "Hey, cool. What's his cell, or what's
Yeah.
her cell number?" And then you
Yes.
actually have a direct access or link to it.
Yes.
And then cold calling's a numbers game. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. You're going to have to call 100 people to probably get 10 people interested. Of the 10
Yes.
people interested, you'll get 5 presentations and you should be able to close 2. But most people don't
Yes.
want to put the work in. They will call
Yeah.
10 people and be like, I got told no.
Yeah.
If that's you, sales is not for you. I'm not being mean. I'm just saying. If you don't want some rejection in your life, sales is not for you.
No, and also how how I see it is that sales is also like you want to get to the no, so because then you can have time left to get to the yes,
Yep.
with the potential the client that is ready for you.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's one of those things as well. It's not about taking it personally. And just because somebody says no, it's not about you. It's just that your product services is not relevant for that
Right.
potential client at that time. Um, but yeah, it's easy to say, if you just sat there and had a day and you did, I don't know, 200 calls and you just only hit voicemails.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, those days happen.
Well, they
Um,
do, but the thing with that, Mark, in that
yeah,
I've learned is that if you're consistent over time, because success is boring, it's doing the right process over
yes,
time. So if you're
yes,
making the 100 calls a day or 200 calls or whatever your number is a day
yes,
consistently, you're going to get to the point to where you're going to start getting enough yeses that you
yeah,
build a pipeline enough up that you start making sales, and then you're cool with it because you've proven the process. I think we just
yes,
quit too soon.
yes. Yeah, and it's yeah, I know. Yeah, you have to hang on. But I think that's just what we talked about habits.
Hmm.
Um, then the question is, I think the answer, for this one would be yes for me. But is sales for everyone? I like to think so, because I feel like we're always selling.
Hmm.
But like even if you're let's be if even if we're applying for a job or whatever, um, let's be honest, we're selling ourselves.
Hmm.
So I think sales is relevant for everyone. But what's your opinion on that?
Yes. So sales would be for everyone in the sense that we're always selling. Like you said, interviewing, going on dates, um, even buying stuff at the grocery store, whatever. You're always selling yourself. People are selling themselves when they just first meet. And then there's just different levels of it. Like I was talking on a podcast earlier today, and we were talking about how it's not always the person who's the most talented, but the person that's willing to put the time and the effort in to skill up and get better. Like you mentioned with the atomic habits, the people that do the right things consistently over time win and become great salespeople. And it's not that you have to be like an amazing sales talented person to begin with. You can learn and develop it. It's just, are you willing to put the work in?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, I don't know, like almost like I'm thinking like the title for the for this episode, "Sales and Other Good Habits" or something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's true, like get the habit going and then you improve. Yeah, and like I said, we agree. Like in the end, we're constantly selling ourselves. Um, even though if we're, the younger stages in life or whatever, and you go like, hey, you're in high school and trying to impress um, somebody in class and be like, hey, you want to go to the dance with me? In the end, you're also sort of like selling yourself.
100%. You are.
um, to be honest, high school is a long time ago for me, but
Me too.
um,
Me too. I'm 44, so it's been a while
oh
since I've
yeah,
been in high school.
yeah. I'm 42, so we're not that much different age-wise.
Hmm.
Um, I know, we were all on lockdowns, yeah, and or coming out of lockdowns or going back in lockdowns, and um, thanks to COVID for that one. Um, so we're not doing a lot of traveling. I know there's some people that do travel and and like still get on private planes and whatever. There's always exceptions.
Hmm.
But I was wondering, like, what's the craziest place you've been pre-COVID, if you will?
Pre-COVID, or I'm actually one of those crazy people. So, I live in Texas, and it's pretty open here in the sense of, and not being political, I'm just giving you the lay of the land. It's open here
Yes.
in the sense of there's no mask mandates here. Um, you can decide to do what you want. So this year, I ended up, because there wasn't as many people out and about, I ended
Yeah.
up going to Hawaii. I've been on like 4 trips. The planes have actually been pretty, well, until the last one I went on, they've been pretty not that full. So it's been fun for me.
Yes.
Um, so I've been out traveling and having fun. Craziest place before COVID I went to was either Bolivia or Malaysia.
Ah, okay.
I've been to both.
Okay, nice. Yes, yes. Yeah, Hawaii, I still want to go. Slightly easier, FYI for some of the listeners. I'm in the UK, so Hawaii is kind of different
Yeah,
journey.
a little bit of a flight for you there, about
Yes,
halfway
yes,
around the
yes,
world.
yes. And of course, like UK were, like were placed on a lot of red lists, if you will,
Hmm.
where, we were not allowed to even fly to countries.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And I think my personal interest is that I don't know from a business point of view is that how the cruise industry recovers and how quickly they will recover.
Ooh, that I
Because I
don't
think
know.
that
See,
because they
that one's tricky, I think,
yes,
because you have different groups that are going to want different requirements for them to
yes,
recover.
yes.
Um, so I'm not sure. I think honestly, I'd say 3 to 5 years before they recover.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, but I think like I'm not a like a big cruise aficionado, but I think it's like that I know that people that literally like the only holidays they do is cruises. So because I don't know, they just like the idea. And of course, let's be honest, a lot of sales were being done in cruises. So let's be honest, for the
Hmm.
world economy, it will be better. But I wonder,
I
yeah,
think
how
that's one
long
of
that
the
will take.
last ones that will,
Yes, I think so
honestly.
too.
Like,
Yes, yes.
I, again, though, that doesn't sound like fun to me. I'd rather fly to an island, get to go hiking and do stuff.
Oh no,
And
no,
I know
me,
some
me
people
too. But
like
yes,
cruises,
yes,
but
yes,
yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one. I think you'll see a lot more other industries open back up, and
yes,
like theme parks and stuff like that will start to open up first,
yes,
and
yes.
concerts and all that stuff.
Yes, yes, yes. And then I think, like like I think like for instance, concerts and festivals or whatever. If that goes well and there's confidence, then yeah, cruises and whatever. But yeah, you're dealing with confined spaces and such. But yeah, that's my personal hope.
Hmm.
Like that recovers because of course that was one of the worst hit industries, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
um, so then, on that note. What could governments around the world do better to help small businesses grow and not just, the big cruise operators,
Hmm.
but the mom and pop shop, I don't know, the local pizzeria. What could governments do to, for instance, help a pizzeria go from, I don't know, 2 branches to 3 branches, and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
What do
Well,
you think they could do better?
you can probably laugh at my answer. Remember, I am in America, so we have a little bit of different thought processes on some stuff. Um, I think get out of the way. And I'm going to refer back to the COVID thing when, like, in America, a lot of the mom and pop shops were shut down, like your pizzerias or your little stores, they couldn't operate. But the Walmarts and the big box stores were able to.
Yes,
And I think the government needs to stay out of the way and not, if it's safe enough for 200 people to be in Walmart, then it's safe enough
yes,
for 5 people to be in the mom and pop store. You know what I mean?
yes,
And
yes,
again, I'm not
yes, yeah,
trying to be political. I'm just thinking from an economical standpoint. And I am more of a libertarian in my thought process where less
yeah,
government makes me happier.
yes,
So I would just be like, hey, maybe having some grants or loans or stuff for some of the ones that have been hit harder and
yeah,
stop propping up big business that really wasn't hit as hard because they got to stay open. That would be
yes,
for the
yes,
current
yes,
situation. Overall, though, with government, less government regulation unless it's something important. I'm not talking about like free willy nilly of the 1800s. Don't hear what I'm not saying,
yes,
but
yes,
you know what I mean. There's like it. There's a lot of things that the government. I think I believe in the individual. I think the
yes.
individual has the ability to do so much, and as long as they are allowed to do that without much hindrance, I think that's the uh, best thing that will help.
Yeah, yeah. Like one personally, like one of the things that I feel as well is that I'm not necessarily like the low government. I'm more like a less big business aligned government.
Hmm.
So for instance, like they if let's be honest, we're all paying for government in one way or the other. One of the things could be like trade missions where they are forced by regulation slash law or whatever that they have to bring X percentage of small businesses along on a trade mission. So, like a small business can then use it to, like, get into, instead of going like, hey, we are only operating nationally,
Hmm.
um, we go along with the prime minister, and all of a sudden, I don't know, let's say we can export to Malaysia or, something. Um, well, a lot of times, those trade missions is like the usual suspects.
Hmm.
And let's be honest, maybe the wrong example in this case, but like the General Electrics of the world or whatever, just the general, like the big companies, they don't really need, quote unquote, the trade missions anymore. So I'm not saying that they can't go in it, but I think governments should do more to, you know, help grow small businesses, as in be forced if in a way. I'm not a legislator,
Hmm.
I'm not a lawyer by any means.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, governments should serve more because um, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I think it's like between 95 or 98% or something of enterprise is small and medium enterprise.
Yeah. It's a
A-
big number.
And
It's
then it's
definitely a big
like,
number.
and then you just go like, like, and how little audience, quote unquote, they get with governments around the world is kind of shocking. Um, and then for instance, like I talk with MPs here. Um, I think I'm not entirely sure if that the closest equivalent is. I don't know if it's like it's not a state senator because basically this is by like county. So I
Hmm.
don't know the U.S. equivalent of that.
Yeah, we have like
Um,
county commissioners and mayors and
yeah, county
legislators.
commissioner, maybe that's
Hmm.
the shortest version. So yeah, MPs sit in parliament.
Hmm.
So funny enough, my MP is the foreign secretary,
Hmm.
which means that he doesn't really have time for us.
Yeah, that's not good.
Let's be honest.
That's not
Um,
good.
but again, I know how it operates. They go like, hey, we help big businesses. So then when I finish as MP, there's a big non-executive directorship waiting for me.
Mm-hmm.
where somebody's gonna pay me 20 grand a month for 9 hours of work, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's in the interest as well, because, and the reason why I always keep on coming back to this is that they should be supporting small and medium enterprise, because as you probably know as well, is that what's in the future or the Nasdaq or New York, whatever index you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, um, a lot of large enterprises that were in there, um, I don't know, so let's say 10, 15 years ago, are no longer in there, as in, the organization doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
And even Amazon, Jeff Bezos has said, yeah, he said to the board of directors in his final letter, saying like, hey, um, I'm telling you, don't count on us existing at one point.
Well, no, because
We'll
everything
probably,
changes.
yes,
Everything's adapting, which is
yes, yes,
fine.
yeah, yeah,
I just don't want the government making decisions on who gets to win. That's my biggest thing because that's what it's
yes,
felt like in a lot of ways. They decide, well,
yes,
this company gets to win and that company doesn't, and I just want
yes,
everyone to have an equal playing field.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
my
yeah,
goal.
yeah. And I did, and my, I don't know, maybe I'm too descriptive, if you will, but I'm like thinking like, they should force like a percentage of not just trade missions, but like assistance or whatever, and like almost have like metrics that they measured on the key performance indicators, like, we are helping, I don't know, a percentage of small and medium enterprise to scale up,
Are you talking
with
like on
programs.
trade missions and different stuff
No,
between countries, or I'm
yeah,
just
not
trying to make
just
sure I
trade
understand?
missions, but in general, where like, instead of obviously like, hey, if you donate to the party, like you can talk and then you can like highlight an issue,
Mm-hmm.
and then be like, hey, I'll talk to a minister on the other end in some other country. Hey, now you get a deal, that kind of thing.
Oh, like a connection
And
that way. I got you.
and of course, a small and medium enterprise can't do that, because they don't just can't just do a donation for, let's say, 100K to a political
Yeah.
party,
Yeah.
because they can't afford to do that.
Yeah. I
So yeah,
think
the
that
whole
that
mechanism should
business
be
shouldn't do
different.
that.
Yeah, yeah, the business, the whole, yeah, structure should be more equal, that they, as a small and medium enterprise, can get the attention, because if you can get a business, for instance, that, let's say, has 100, 150 employees, um, and you can give them some assistance, what I can, like, without rolling out all the China, if you will, and you can get, I don't know, 10% of those medium enterprises to get to the next level where it's 1,000 employees plus. That's beneficial for the country and for the economy. But yeah, I feel like it's like it's an underserved segment, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess I still lean more toward free markets
Yes,
and letting the
yeah,
markets decide. But I would say this: I don't think businesses should be allowed to donate to political parties to get favors. I'm not for
yeah.
lobbyists either. We call them
No, no, no,
lobbyists
no,
here.
no, no, and this is a problem. Let's be honest. DC, but not as well, and but also, of course, London is full of lobbyists and,
Hmm.
and, and think tanks, which are really just a front for influencing people. Let's be honest.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, one thing at a time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's not gonna go away. Even if people say, then the people with the money are not gonna immediately change tactics, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like it's one thing if people are lobbying for, hey, what, there needs to be more government budget for, I don't know, finding medicine for cancer, of course, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
That's one thing. But like, for instance, like, I don't know, big oil or whatever, like lobbying to, operate, I don't know, a pipeline in a way that is potentially, a problem for the environment.
Hmm.
Yeah, that kind of thing. It's dangerous, because the problem is, if you then only talking to the people that have economic interest, and you don't get to listen to the other side, yeah, you have an incomplete
Yeah.
story. So yeah,
Hmm.
um, without going too much into it. So if a budding entrepreneur would ask you for one piece of advice, what would it be? If they're looking to start a business.
Sure. Find something that you can help someone with that you love doing, that you're willing to put the time and effort to see through. What I mean by that is this: a lot of people have a lot of great ideas, but they don't put the end in mind. So start with where you want to end up and reverse engineer it back, because then you have a goal, a destination, or a place you can get to that will fuel your fire, for lack of better words, when it gets hard. Because as an entrepreneur, there's going to be days when it's great. There's going to be days when it's not as fun. There's going to be days when you're tired, you want to give up. But if you have that dream in place and you have it written out, it's a lot easier to keep going and following those steps.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and then like it sounds a bit woozy maybe for other people, like affirmations or whatever, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like you said, think about what you deliver, what purpose and who you're doing it for, that kind of thing. Because yeah, some days it might be great, and other days you just be like, I'm not doing it, because it's not a great day.
Yeah.
And then that can help you, if you have your mission written down,
Mm-hmm.
and then be like, hey, I'll pull through and still get my stuff done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good one. Now a bit of a fun question, like a previous guest have said, a magic wand. What would you want to make happen? Previous guests have said, for instance, like a COVID vaccine for everyone. So yeah, for that's been done. Let's be honest. Most Western countries, thankfully, have vaccines for people that want it. I'm not talking about the developing world, third world countries,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. Um, but if you had a magic wand, what would you want to make happen?
That's a good question. If I had a
And
magic wand, so are there any parameters with this?
yes, yeah. So I was
Okay.
gonna say to get to the parameters. You can do one thing, I don't know, million, billion times, or you can just do one thing one time. So, for instance, you can, previous guests have said, I want a COVID vaccine for everyone in the world, whatever. So, of course, that's not one single vaccine.
Yeah, I gotcha.
um, um, but it can also be, like something personal, something business.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be like, I don't know, I wanna, I don't know, build a school, what, anything really. It's like more like, especially from the Magic Wand perspective, like what do you want to do that nobody else is thinking about, but it should be done, that kind of thing.
That is a very interesting and good question. So, if I had a magic wand and could make anything happen, what would I make happen? I would probably. Ooh, there's so many really good things you could
Oh,
do. So
yeah,
it's like,
I'm not
which one
saying,
do I want?
yeah, that's the thing, like it's not a question of like, um, I don't know, like good versus evil kind of thing. You can just be like, hey, I want everybody to know about my company, and that's fine. But it's
No, it's
really
not that.
hard.
I'll
It's
get
like,
that one done. If I get a magic wand,
yes,
I'm gonna go big or go home.
yes, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I think I'm gonna go a little weird here. So I think I would want to be able to invent interstellar space travel,
Oh, nice.
because
Yes,
in that way we could go and explore and uh, see what's out in the universe. Because like I'm a big space nut, and like I said, I
yes,
know it's way off of kind of what we're talking about, but just that whole ability to go and
yes.
see just different things. So I would
Oh
invent
yeah, no,
interstellar space
I
travel.
completely agree. Confession, I'm a space nut and a Star Trek nut.
Hmm.
Like I watch SpaceX stuff and multiple YouTube channels or whatever.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, you know
uh,
what I like about Star Trek that's
yeah,
different than any other? Like most
yeah,
sci-fi shows
yes,
are the end of the world, dystopian, the world's ending, right? Star
yes,
Trek is the only one that I know of that
yeah,
deals with Earth, because Star Wars is not Earth,
yeah,
where we get better.
yes,
And that's what I love about Star Trek. We're not perfect. We still do stupid stuff. We still fight with the Klingons, and
yes,
you've
yes,
watched
yes,
Star Trek, but we keep getting better, and
yes.
that's what I like about Star Trek.
Yes, and then also like like the whole idea of futuristic technologies, and then
Hmm.
it's like like I don't run those kind of YouTube channels, but I know the ones that collect stuff and they go like, oh yeah, they had this technology and guess what, like they talked about it, I don't know, 76 or whatever. And then like somebody invented it in like 1994,
Hmm.
and then you just go like, wow, like it's crazy. Like it's almost like on a slightly different note. It's like The Simpsons where they do an episode and then
And
like
then it
years later
happens. Yep.
and it happens and you just go like, these creators behind The Simpsons, um, like my current binge of sci-fi wise is a show called Travelers, which I
Yep.
know
I've
it's like
watched that. I love that show.
which I know it's like cancelled and
Yeah.
I only find about it like later.
Me too.
So but yeah, it's just one of those things. Um, and also like I'm a big Stargate Atlantis fan.
Yep.
I'm still, sad that that's no longer there.
I'm a
But
Firefly fan.
I haven't watched Firefly, but I know people keep telling me to watch that.
Oh, if you're a space person, you need to watch it. You'll love it.
Yeah, I know.
And then you'll
It's
be
just
mad. There's only one season.
yes, yes. Yeah, which is probably one of the reasons why I haven't watched it because I will like, oh, but why only one season? Um, and what was the other one that I really liked that was sci-fi? Uh, Flash Forward
Haven't seen that one.
or Flash Forward, I think. Anyway, we could do like a space episode.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, we talk about space. What I really like now is like looking at all the Starship stuff
Hmm.
from SpaceX. I'm just like going like, okay, can I find time in my sleep or something to learn all this difficult math and then like do the cybersecurity for SpaceX or something?
Hmm.
And then you just like think about like what the maths behind it. It's like you like you have to really have like a PhD to understand all the maths and then to be able to even think about cybersecurity for it.
Yeah.
I'm just like I'm thinking that as well from my own field. Like how would you even do that? For instance, like like interstellar travel. Like how would you even like do intrusion detection, if you will, where you go like, hey, how could you even detect if a alien, quote unquote, is trying to hack into a control system of a starship?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's so
So
conceptual,
out there. Yep.
so out there that like you just go like, wow, what kind of brain capacity do you need to have to even think about what kind of interference are you looking for? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So for instance, like intrusion, not trying to go too nerdy, but it's like you're looking for like IP packets. But then if you conceptually think about it, we go like, well, yeah, IP is like like internet protocol. It's
Yep.
like let's be honest, early invention. So why, even if there's alien race out there, I'm not saying there isn't or there is. I'm not a scientist when it comes to that. Probability wise, yes, probably. But
Yep.
my point is that all current citizens are probably not even relevant on that purpose because an alien race, wherever it is, probably has completely different
Technology,
concepts and
ideas,
technologies.
concepts. Yep. Hmm.
So how would you even potentially think about defending something um, that's operating with different languages?
Programming, all of it.
Like
Yep.
like
Hmm.
how would you even like attack it? Would it be like a pulse? Would it be like heat? I don't know, it's amazing if you think
You'd
about it.
have to test and try. That's all you could
Yes,
do.
yes, yeah. But that's like amazing, and that's frontier wise. That's where the UK is trying to do more as well. To be fair,
Hmm.
but I think that's where the next half of this century is going to be really interesting. Um, with how much exploring I think the human race will do.
Hmm.
And I think that's gonna change. And like I know people joked in the past about flying cars. But I'm not saying like we're gonna get like Fullgate, Stargate, Atlantis, and we're gonna get a Stargate. Um, but I think it's gonna get more normal, much more normal than we currently even think about.
Hmm.
And that's gonna be exciting. I know that I don't know, was it SpaceX? I think that was thinking about I don't know, was it using Starships? I'm not entirely sure. For travel between cities.
Interesting. Yeah, I have no idea.
So they were like, oh yeah, we'll use the rocket and the Starship, but then actually what we're doing is that we're launching, and then because we're going into subspace, quote unquote, um, instead of like New York to, I don't know, Tokyo, whatever, 6 hours. I don't know the numbers right now, but it was like, like you can do it in 50 minutes,
Yeah, yeah. So like New
which
York
is
to
like amazing, and
Tokyo.
it's like mind blown where you just go like, wow, you're thinking about like taking rockets
Hmm.
to effectively like go from New York to Tokyo.
Yeah, and normally that's a 16-hour flight. So
Yeah,
you do it from 16 hours to like an hour even would be
yeah, which is
crazy.
like amazing, like mind
Hmm.
blown. And that and we're already thinking about that. So I'm like thinking like, if you get to like like second half of this century, we're gonna be like doing stuff that's if we already think about this is like mind blown stuff, we're gonna be doing stuff that we can't even think about it blowing our mind,
Yeah. No, I hear
which is
you.
really interesting. Anyway, I don't wanna like sorry listeners, but yeah, space stuff.
Hey, that was my magic wand. So we took us on a little tangent, but it's
Yeah,
okay.
no, that's fine, that's fine. So maybe like I'll answer my own question. I would like, I don't know, like a personal starship, quote unquote.
Hmm.
Um, just imagine like like we have our own, and ideally speaking, um, electrically powered, or using a fuel source that is regenerating by
Yep,
itself.
renewable. Hmm.
Which would be amazing. It'd be like, um, I don't know. You could be like, hey, you know what? You go from London to Hawaii in a transport where you basically not dependent on a fixed schedule,
Hmm.
and you're doing it in a vehicle, quote unquote, that's also not destroying in the environment at the same time.
Yep, yep. Like
And
a
and
TARDIS.
maybe like we can't think of it right now maybe, but it's just, I don't know, so many amazing things are gonna like
Oh
change.
yeah,
So
no, I'm
maybe
with you. I would just want to call it the TARDIS because I'm a big Doctor Who
yes,
fan.
like yes, yeah, TARDIS, that will be one thing, and then like multiple timelines and whatever. But yeah, Stargate would be cool as well. Just imagine like if we get something like a, not a Stargate of course, but fictional, quote unquote, but like a mechanism where you could be like, hey, instead of like flying to Mars, we have a portal and you walk through it, and then the other end you just walk out in Mars.
Hmm.
And then to go further and be like, hey, oh, you want to go like 5 galaxies further? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's the yeah, 10 portal, that one, yeah. It's just like amazing, and be
Yep.
like like use my air miles, and then it's like, well, actually it's space miles. Anyway, I think it's getting late here, so I'm starting to dream, if you will.
No, that's
I
awesome.
would say thank you for your time. And yeah, it was been enlightening. Like sales, tips are always welcome. Every small and medium enterprise can use sales knowledge.
Hmm.
Um, I was gonna say, where can they find you?
Sure. Sure. So the easiest place to find me would be on the 150K podcast, which is on Spotify, Apple, pretty much anywhere you can get your local podcast. I also have a group on Facebook called the 150K podcast, and then I also have on Instagram the handle is 150K podcast. I try to keep it simple that way they can't mess it up and I can't mess it up.
Yes,
So
yes,
if you Google 150K podcast, you're probably gonna find me somewhere of one of
yes,
those three.
yes. And then I was gonna say, like you keep growing, growing. Are you gonna launch the 1 million podcast?
Possibly. The whole idea about the 150K podcast was really simply this. I've
Yeah,
gotten over 100K multiple years now, and I
yeah,
was like, once I finally did that, I
yeah,
was able to relax and breathe and figure out, okay, cool, what do I really want out of life? So if I can
yes,
help other
yes,
people get to that level through different
yes,
ways, it doesn't have to be through sales. It could be through business. It could be through writing, whatever it is, it's your path to
Yes.
follow.
Yes.
That's my goal, is to help people, take their dreams to six figures and beyond.
Yeah, and that's good you bring it up. Like I've done mentoring as well, in the cybersecurity space, of course, obviously. Um, Coming from the background, like from my say less than nice neighborhood.
Hmm.
So I mentored kids, where because the neighborhood we're in, they wouldn't necessarily get a chance. And you mentor kids, and then you give them like a laptop, a simple laptop, and then if these kids then can get a job, and
Hmm.
then what it is in tech, like yes, okay, your salaries are still higher than here, but in general, if you can have a career, and then you as a son and daughter can make like 80, 100K, or just a few years in,
Hmm.
that can be a game changer, because you, not just for yourself, but also for your family,
Hmm.
because you can help your parents as well. So yeah, yeah, it's not just a question, like you said, of helping yourself, quote unquote, but you're helping others that way as well, and
Hmm.
then that's a cascading effect. So what I've seen as well is that a lot of people were then inspired by it. So I've seen people say, "Hey, I'm not joining a gang, um, but I'm gonna sit behind my laptop."
Hmm.
And then instead of like they'll be like, "Hey, I'll make my life in a gang." They go like, "Hey, that there's another possibility."
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and that's
that's the
all we can
interesting
do.
thing.
Yep.
Exactly. And then like they show others, and then it's like a snowball effect, which maybe not that relevant to Texas weather-wise most of the
No,
time.
not here. Now, I grew up north, so I
Yeah.
grew up in Michigan, so I've seen a ton of snow. But
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
down here
yes.
we don't
Yeah.
have snow.
Yeah, to be fair, in the UK, I originally from the Netherlands myself, and which would have a bit more snow. Uh, but I know that in the UK, especially in England, down south, if there's snow, a little bit of snow, like everything stops, and then people go like, what's this? Like I
Hmm.
can't drive all of a sudden, which is quite funny as a Dutch person, because you're much more used to snow, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you just do it.
Uh,
Yep, I'm with
yeah,
you.
you just go like like you switch to your winter tires, and you drive a little bit slower, but yeah, that's about it.
I
Um,
gotcha.
but yeah, and then, I've seen the UK where it's like local authorities like we run out of like gritting powder, like salt.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, because they were like we never had more than 2 days of snow in a row, which is quite funny. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's a bit tangent there. But yeah, that's the whole thing, like helping others get ahead, and then they can help others get ahead, and before you know it, you can change the society. So that's what it all should be about.
Yes,
Um,
for sure.
Again, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've appreciated it. I've enjoyed it.
And then I would say for everybody listening to the podcast, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave any feedback. You know how to reach me. Um, and then for now, I wish you a great morning, afternoon, evening, depending on which time or where you are listening to it. And I'll see you next episode.
Thank you for tuning in this episode. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I look forward to having you tune in again next episode. See you next time.